We were doing the chapter number 9, international trade, and in this lecture we will continue the same. In the last lecture, we studied about the international trade. What do you mean by trade and what is international trade? Right? What is the history of international trade and basis of international trade? The major components in which we discuss the volume of trade, composition of trade, and the direction of trade, and the types of international trade, which is of two: bilateral trade and the multilateral trade. And then last is the balance of trade, which could be positive and as well as negative. Now, today we will discuss the case for free trade or trade liberalization. First of all, what do you mean by free trade? Free trade, it doesn't mean that we are trading without any cost, without any price, right? Free trade means, as we learned, that history of trade, international trade basically, that there were some restrictions put on during the First World War and the Second World War in the form of taxes and in the form of quantity, right? So free trade means when these restrictions were removed off, that is called free trade. It is mainly due to the basically it done so that the trade can expand, right? So act of opening up economies for trading is known as free trade or trade liberalization, right? So there is some liberalization in the international trade so that all the economies, all the countries can open their markets for the trade. This is done by bringing down trade barriers like tariffs. Tariffs which imposed on the import and export of the commodities that were removed off. Trade liberalization allows goods and services from everywhere to compete with domestic products and services. When the trade liberalization was there, when the trade tariffs were removed off, now the markets of all the countries were open. Now you can consume the commodities of different countries within your countries, right? So it promote the products, different products and services. But at the same time, the domestic products and services have to compete with the foreign goods, right? If in suppose when we were under the British ruler, then what was happening? The trade was with the Britishers, and the handmade cloth were the crafts and the handmade clothes means the weavers were ruined by being the manufactured goods because they were cheap and they were high quality. That's why our own domestic products have to compete with these international goods, right? So the domestic industries in the form of cottage industry, in the form of small scale industries, they could not be compete with the large scale manufactured goods. So globalization along with free trade can adversely affect the economies of developing countries. The adverse effect of the globalization can be seen mostly in the developing countries which are not able to compete with the products of developed countries. So their domestic products, their domestic industries tend to decrease. These are the drawbacks of free trade or liberalization. The second one is free trade should not only let rich countries enter the markets. By free trades, it is not just like the rich countries can enter in the markets, but it allow the developed countries to keep their own markets protected from foreign products. What happened? The rich countries make some rules in such a form that they could export their things to the different developing countries, but they can restrict the import of other goods in their country, so they protect their own markets, right? In this form, there is one more important term, that is dumping of goods. What do you mean by dumping? To sell any commodity, there is a price determined, right? So the price is determined to sell the commodity. If we are selling the same commodity to different countries, suppose we are selling rice, right? We are selling rice and to different countries like A and B, correct? If we are selling the rice to the country A at the price of 450 per kg, right? And while the same rice, same quality of rice, we are sending the country B at the rate of 500 per kg. It means the product is same, the quality is same, the cost of cost of production is same, but we are taking two different prices from the different countries. That is dumping of goods, and it can be seen in the international trade mostly. That the reason behind it could be some other reasons, while it can be a rich country, so we can get more than this country, right? Maybe we have some friendly relation with the country A rather than the country B. So the reason could be any kind of reason could be there. But if a country is uh, selling his commodity at the different price to the different countries, that is called dumping of goods. Now, when the international trade occurs, there were some problems related. What are these problems? If there is any dispute, who will solve them? Right? If how much we can impose the duties, we can impose the income tax, or we can impose the taxes, right? So how by to which country we can trade, all these matters, who will discuss, who will sort out these matters? So there are a one organization, there is an organization that is called World Trade Organization, WTO. In 1948, to liberalize the world from high customs tariff and their other type restrictions, General Agreement of Tariff and Trade, that is called GATT, was formed by some countries. Originally, the GATT was formed. Firstly, the GATT was formed to liberalize the trade, right? Then on 1st January 1995, GATT was transformed into the World Trade Organization, that is WTO. Right, that was an organization to make the international trade liberalized. In 1994, it was decided by the member countries of WTO to set up a permanent institution for looking after the promotion of free and fair trade among us nation. So it was a decision of the member countries in 1994 to form an permanent institution, and that permanent institution was WTO. So WTO is the only international organization which deal with the global rules of trade between nations, how the trade will be occurs, what for the rules and regulations to carry the trade with different countries, with in different member countries of WTO, that was set up by the World Trade Organization. It sets the rules for the global trading system and resolves disputes between its member nations. These are the basically functions of WTO, right? What are the main functions of WTO? It sort out the disputes between its member nations. Second, WTO also covers trade in services such as telecommunication, banking, and other issues such as intellectual rights. Its headquarters is located in Geneva, in Switzerland, and 149 countries are the members of WTO as on December 2005. India is also a member of WTO. Now come to the regional trade blocs. This World Trade Organization means WTO is an international trade organization and 149 members. 149 countries are its members. Now some of the countries make its own organization that is called regional trade blocs. So what do we mean by regional trade blocs? Regional trade blocs are economic organization that is formed by a group of countries. These countries could be three, these countries could be four, two, and no two because it will be a bilateral. It is more than two, means three, five, seven countries could be there. It depends upon the countries. They encourage trade between countries. They form these organization to promote the trade within the group of countries. To, Today, there are 120 regional trade blocs and 52% of the world trades is generated by these regional trade blocs. What are the benefits of RTB, regional trade blocs? Firstly, they are formed to promote the trade within a geographical area. Suppose there are four countries, one is this, second, third, and fourth. They form an organization, right? They form a block. Then the trade will be carried among all these countries, right? To promote the trade among these countries, these regional trade blocs were formed. Second, if the trade is carried with the member countries, no doubt there will be development of all the member countries. Third, there will be no restriction between the trade of these grouping countries. So there is a trade liberalization. Transfer of finance. If any country is poorer or need the financial help, the other will do the same for that country. Transfer of technology. With the trade, and the transfer of technology also occurred, because if there is a country which is lacking in the technology, the other country, from the other country, it can brought, or other country can help the first one to develop the technology. By the trade, there is a development in socio-political relations also. And when the same categorized country form a group, it means there is a less dependency on the developed world. They can trade between their same countries, and that's why they will be less exploited by the developed countries. So less dependency on global organization, which is WTO. If they have their own organization, they can sort out their disputes by this organization. They can sort out, they can promote their trade, everything they can do in within their organization. So there is a very less chance to go with the international organization. Now what are these regional trade blocks? We will focus on some of major regional trade blocks because there are 120 regional trade blocks. But in this chapter we will learn only major trade blocks of countries. The first one is ASEAN, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nations, right? Asian nations. In the map you can see the member countries of these ASEAN, that is Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, all these are the member of these organization. Its headquarter is in Jakarta, Indonesia, and formed the 1966 organization. First, accelerate economic growth among the member countries to promote the cultural development of these South Asian countries and to establish peace and regional stability in these countries. The next one is EU. EU means European Union, right? So European Union means it consists the European countries. In the map, you can see here are the different countries of Europe which are involved in this group, in this organization, right? United Kingdom, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Austria, Croatia, Romania, Italy, Bulgaria, Greece, France, Spain, Germany, Belgium, almost all the European countries formed this organization, and its headquarters in Brussels in Belgium. It was formed in 1992. It is a single market, and because all the European countries are its member, so it has single market and single currency is used in this or in this trade between these countries, so that the uh, change of currency, that is the major problem in international trade, should be avoided. The third one is LAIA, Latin American Integration Association, right? So in these Latin American countries are its members like Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela. All these countries of America and Latin America, including Argentina, these are the members of this association. Its headquarters is Montevideo in Uruguay, and its origin is 1994. So students, don't be confused, because the objective of all these organizations are almost same: to promote the trade, to promote the peace and stability, right? To promote their economic and development, right? So major objectives of all the organizations are same. So you have to learn about the name of the organization and its headquarter, its origin, and mostly major countries involved in it. The next is NAFTA, North American Free Trade Association. It means all the countries like USA, Canada, and Mexico, they are the members of NAFTA, and its origin is it originate in 1949. The next is OPEC. OPEC, it is related to the mostly Arabian countries. That OPEC, as its name suggests, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They are mostly Arabian countries. So its headquarters is in Vienna or in Austria, and they coordinate and unify petroleum policies, right? So they make an association to coordinate over petroleum product, and there should be a uniform policy about the petroleum, so that they made this association. Members are Africa, Algeria, Libya, Nigeria, including some Asian countries like Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. South American, Venezuela are all these members. The next is SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Agreement. So it consists of South Asian countries like Bangladesh, Maldives, Bhutan, Nepal, India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. All these countries belong to South Asia. That originate in 2006. It is formed to develop to develop the relationship between these developing countries and to reduce tariffs on international trade. So these are some of the organizations. Now come to the last topic of this chapter, that is ports. Ports are known as the gateways of international trade because mostly international trade is carried by the ports. So they are considered as the gate, right, through which the international trade can be enter. So seaports and harbors are called the gateway of international trade because this is point of entry for international trade. This is also point of exit for international trade. Most of the international trade are done through seaports and handles bulky and heavy goods for international trades. Right. So it is the base of international trade. Through the air transport, we cannot carry the trade, right? Because for the bulky and heavy goods, water transport is more suitable, and the ports provide these facilities. Here you can see the most of the bulky and huge quantity goods can be carried by the seaports, which provide facilities of loading, unloading, and the storage facilities for cargo. Now, there are different types of ports which provide particular facilities, and by providing these facilities, they get their name. So, first is ports can be classified on the basis of cargo which they handled, and on this basis there are three ports. First is industrial ports. Industrial ports are those ports which carries specialized industrial and raw materials like grain, sugar, oil, or oil, chemicals. All these industrial goods can be carried by these ports. Second is commercial ports. These ports handled general cargo, packaged products, and manufactured goods. Right. So these ports also carried passenger traffic also. Third is comprehensive ports. These ports handle both of these, as well as industrial as well as manufactured goods. So now most of the world ports are of comprehensive port. Now the second category, the ports can be classified on the basis of their location, and the basis of their location there are two types of ports. The first is inland port. Inland port means the port within country, which supports the inland waterways as well and serves the serve as a helper to the oceanic routes. So these ports are located away from the sea coast and linked with the sea by a river or a channel, right? So such ports are suitable for small and flat bottom ships because they are made on river bank. So small ships can be there. Kolkata is located on river Hooghly. Manchester in London are the some of example of inland ports. Second is outports. Outports are connected the oceanic routes, right? So these are located at the sea coast, right? So they are built in the sea near to the coastal areas. These act as a parent port because all the goods and services which are export and import, they are carried by these ports. So they receive a large ships, large vessels in large quantity and unable to dock facilities. Athens and Paris in Greece are such type of ports. Now, what is the difference between the inland ports and outports? Inland ports, they are located away from the oceans, while outports located on ocean or sea coast. They linked a ocean coast through a river or canal, and they are not linked with the river or canal. Inland ports are not suitable for large ships, while outports are suitable for large ships. Inland ports are known as landlocked because they are made within the land and parent port, while outports are known as satellite port as it serves throughout the world, right? So it serves parent, inland and land of ports also. So here are some example of inland ports like San Francisco, Manchester, Memphis, Mehimia and Duisburg and Kolkata. On the which river they are formed? Examples of outports are Athens and its outport Piraeus in Greece. Now the third types of ports classified based on the specialized task, what tasks or what functions they perform. First is oil port. As its name suggesting, the oil tankers are transported by these ports, right? So crude oil and petroleum liquid material is mostly transported by these ports. For example, Tripoli. The second is naval ports who provide the facilities for the naval force, right? So it has a strategic importance because it is related to the defense and it provide the facility to the navy, right? So the Kochi, that is a naval port. The third one is entrepot. Entrepot, these ports act as collection centers. Goods are collected and shipped to different countries, right? Like Singapore. So in this port, what would happen? The goods will be collected and without sending these goods to the hinterland, these goods will be transported to the another country. Next, packet station. Packet stations are mostly, they are known as ferry ports. Ferry ports and their functions are transportation of passengers and mails. Mails and passengers are carried by these ports. In this picture, you can see the two ports either side of English Channel. First is Dover in England and second is Calais in uh, France, right? So these are the two ports which carried mail and passenger. The next is port of call. Port of call, they are some are developed as calling ports on main sea routes. It means if the ships have to travel a long voyage, they have to fuel their ships, right? So they have to take rest. So these ports provide such facilities to them, right? So these are the ports which provide the facility of refueling, watering and taking food items. Later on, these developed into commercial ports. For example, Aden, Honolulu, and Singapore. These are known as the ports of call, which provide these facilities to the ships. In the map, you can see these three are located in the form of boxes: Singapore, Honolulu, and Aden, from where the other ships are coming. A number of routes going from these ports, right? So ships take rest, ships take fuel from these ports. They are ports of call. Next is entrepot ports. There we already discussed. By this picture, you are able to understand it properly. That there is a Singapore. Singapore, the Perth. Singapore import the goods from the Perth and by this port. These goods are directly sent to the Mumbai, right? So it is not sending to the hinterland of Singapore. It transported to the Mumbai directly from this port. That is known as entrepot. Here is a map list of seaports. You can see the location of some of the major seaports of world route. Here we are beginning with the North America. You can take a screenshot of this map because it is very important for the exam point of view. In the North America, western side Vancouver, San Francisco, eastern side New Orleans. These are the major seaport. In the South America, northern side Coloa, eastern side Rio de Janeiro, western side Valparaiso, that is the important seaport. In Europe, there are London, Hamburg. These are the major seaport. In South Africa, there is Cape Town, Durban, and in the north side, that is Suez. In Asia, there are Aden, Karachi, Shanghai, Kolkata, Hong Kong, Yokohama. And in Australia, these are Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney. Right? So you can be asked continental wise major seaport. I hope you are all are able to understand the concept properly. Still, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Now the chapter has been completed. If you have any doubt, you can ask now. Yes, Muskan, Janvi, Bhumi, is it okay? Are you able to understand? Raise your hands, beta, if you have understood. Yes, Muskan and Bhumi. Okay, good.